For those of you who are new to the webinar series, my name is Maggie. We are coming to you from the RELO Andes office in Lima, Peru, from the U.S. Embassy. For those of you who aren't familiar with the RELO office, RELO is run by Micah Rischer and Marcela Raffo. RELO is the regional English language office, and they have all the dealings having to do with English language teaching and learning throughout South America, minus Brazil, which is a different RELO. But anyways, so my name is Maggie. Like I said, I am the English language fellow based out of Lima. For those of you who are new to webinars, Citrix is the name of the software, so I'm sure if you have joined us, you got emails from them about having to do a download for the software. This is what you should see on your screen. This is the panel that you can use in order to communicate with us. We want the webinars to involve you as much as possible and to be as interactive as possible. So before we begin, I want to show you how to use some of the software. So first you will see that you are muted. Your microphone is muted and it will continue to be muted throughout the remainder of the webinar. You can expand and collapse this as you want it. If you want to see it, if you have questions, you can leave it opened. If it bothers you, you can turn it off. There are several different ways of interacting, like I mentioned, and I will go through them with you now so that you can see what we mean when I mention them to you. So the first is the chat box. The chat box is where you see here, enter a question for staff. The questions go directly to us here who are running the webinar. So if you send them out, they will not be seen by everyone, just by us. So if you have a question as the webinar is going on, or you're having a problem with your equipment, please feel free to type the question in. We will see them. Questions about the content of the webinar will be answered at the end of the webinar. So ask them as they come up. We will save them and stay with us towards the end, and we will be able to answer any questions that have come up. If you are having technical problems, please, as you can't hear or see or anything, let us know and we can address those immediately. The next tool is hand raising. That is this little icon that you see here that looks like a hand. The idea of this tool is for you to raise your hand in case, I see some of you have found it, in case you want to do just a quick poll, a quick check-in with you. So just to make sure that you know how the hand raising tool works, everyone please go to that and click on it. And let's see, looks like a lot of you found it. Click on the hand just so that we can see that you know how to do it, that you found it. All right, excellent. All right, perfect. Okay, and if you want the practice as well, you can also type a quick hello into the chat box just in case you want to make sure that you know how to do it. It'll go to us, we'll be able to see it. It'll look like this. Hello. All right, we have Vivian and Rodrigo. We got yours, Eduardo, Jacqueline, Teresa, hello. Raquel, Antonio. All right, excellent. Good. So we found the chat box and we found the hand raising. Perfect. Okay. The next tool is polls. There will be several polls throughout this webinar. The polls are just quick little questions that we want to ask you just to check in with you throughout the webinar. So the first poll that we're going to ask you, since we're talking about vocabulary, I just want to see about your vocabulary first. So your English vocabulary, if you were to compare the size of your English vocabulary Wait, can we see it? All right, if you could compare the size of your vocabulary with an animal, how big would you say your English vocabulary is? First being a blue whale, an elephant, a llama, a dog, or, since we're coming to you from Peru, a cuy, or a guinea pig. You can click on your screen, whichever one you think most compares with the size. How many English words do you think that you know? All right. Wow, llama is a very popular answer. Give a couple more seconds. It looks like we have about 2/3 of you have voted. I'll give a couple more seconds. You can click on the screen, and then I will share the results with you. All right. Last couple seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Poll is closed. All right, just so you can see it. Here are the results. Looks like 35% of you, the winning number was llama, so in a middle amount of vocabulary. All right, excellent. The next tool that we have is for sharing information. This one you'll be able to see. You can't see it on the screen that I have, but you'll be able to see something that says handouts. Handouts are here you'll be able to access the slides from the PowerPoint once Patrick begins, as well as a file that has some other activities on vocabulary. So feel free to download these. If you just click on them from the handout, you'll be able to download them. Once the webinar is over, they are no longer available, so make sure that you download them now while the webinar is in session. If you're having trouble with the download, you can email me through the confirmation email that you received. It will go to me and I'll be able to hand them to you later. But in the meantime, make sure you get those documents in case you're interested in having them. And finally is surveys. At the end of this webinar, there will be a quick survey that we ask you to fill out. It only takes a couple seconds. We just want to know where you're joining us from and how many people you're with. A lot of people like to watch the webinar in viewing parties, and if that's the case, we just want to know how many you're with, just so that when we're creating future webinars, we know who we're talking to so we can make them more contextual for you. All right. So, with all of that said, I would like to introduce our speaker who will be presenting on vocabulary. His name is Patrick Gaebler. He is joining us from Mexico. He is also an English language fellow. And he will be talking with us. So, Patrick, are you there? Patrick? Hello? I think we're having audio problems with Patrick.
Hello, can you guys
Hi.
hear me?
Yeah, we got you. Hi, Patrick. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Nice to meet everybody virtually. Sorry for the muted problem.
No problem. We've got it all figured out now. So,
Okay.
Patrick, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from? Where are you now? What are you doing?
Like Maggie mentioned, I am also an English language fellow. Currently, I'm in the middle of Mexico in a small town called Aguascalientes. I am working at a technical university helping to teach English to the students and also to help train the teachers here at the university. Originally, I'm from Colorado in the United States.
Excellent. And what is the topic of your presentation for today's webinar?
Today, I am giving a webinar on augmenting vocabulary, on tools to help students start learning vocabulary, and specifically idioms, phrasal verbs, and then a tool to help them learn vocabulary in a more general sense.
Excellent. All right. You ready to begin?
Yep.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. So, as Maggie introduced me, my name is Patrick Gaebler, and today I'm going to be talking about what I'm calling Word Up, or helping to increase students' vocabulary. So, first of all, I wanted to talk a little bit about three different points. Basically, what is vocabulary augmentation? Why we are going to try to augment our students' vocabulary, and also three strategies on how to augment students' vocabulary. So first of all, I wanted to talk about what. As you can see here, and Maggie, you're showing them the slides, right?
I am. If you need me to move it, let me know.
Okay. I cannot see which one you're sharing. You want to try to share mine? I think the tech guy just gave me more bandwidth.
Oh, nice guy. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
share it with you.
Okay. So I can share my screen with them. Sorry guys for the technical difficulty. So as I was saying, we wanted to talk about the what, the why, and the how for vocabulary augmentation.
Patrick,
So
did you get something that says share my screen?
I did not. Not that I can see. Now there we go.
There it is.
Can you guys see mine?
Yep, now we're good.
Okay. So basically, I'll repeat myself again, the what, the why, and the how. So first of all, what? What what are we doing to, what does it mean to augment students' vocabulary? Basically, we want to have the augmentation or the improvement or increased vocabulary to be student-centered. We want it to be contextualized. That means we don't just want lists of vocabulary with maybe a translation or a two-word definition. We want them to be seeing the vocabulary and in the context, hearing it in a sentence or perhaps reading it in a sentence. We also want that vocabulary to be relevant. If the students, for example, are engineering students and they are studying English as extra or maybe part of their program, we want them to be learning vocabulary about engineering, not maybe vocabulary about medicine or about biology. We want it to be relevant to what is going on in their life and perhaps in their other areas of study. Finally, we want their vocabulary to be appropriate. We want them to have be learning vocabulary that's at their level, not too easy and not too difficult, and also things that they will be using and be seeing in their day-to-day study of English. So how are we going to do this? Or why are we going to do this? Excuse me. We want to increase the students' vocabulary, first of all, to help them improve or increase their understanding, not only for reading, but also for listening. The more vocabulary the students have, the easier it will be for them to understand and to receive different input in the language, which would be English for this point. Also, we want them to have more precise production. We want them to be able to speak and write in English in a more precise way. So the more vocabulary they have, the more precise they will be. And basically, the more vocabulary, the greater amount of freedom that they have to be more articulate, more expressive, more intelligible, and more eloquent with their vocabulary, with their production, and with also their understanding. So how are we going to try to help the students augment the vocabulary? Today I'm going to give you three different strategies. The first one is about using idioms. The second one will be about phrasal verbs. And finally, I will talk about what I call the word wall. The first two strategies, both the idiom and the phrasal verb strategy, are based on the idea that students retain more information when they are teaching others. So the students will learn a few, maybe just one or two idioms or phrasal verbs in the beginning, but then they will be able to teach their other classmates. So here I would like to show you the sample for the idiom presentation that I have been using with my students. First of all, I wanted to explain, everybody I'm sure is familiar with what an idiom is. It's a phrase or a fixed expression that normally has a more figurative, sometimes a literal, but usually more figurative meaning. As you can see down below, we have this idiom, a leopard can't change his spots. So basically, we know that a leopard or a jaguar or something is not able to change its color, but we use this phrase, this idiom, in order to describe people who have a hard time changing. For example, if somebody really likes chocolate, then it's hard for them to change that habit. So rather than saying things in a more literal way, we use idioms in a more figurative way. So I wanted to show a little bit about the timeline for this particular project. The first thing that I suggest is introducing the project with the actual PowerPoint that we are seeing now. It gives the students a chance to see what it is expected of them and also to see an example of what they will be presenting once they are presenting their project. So first introduce, next the students need to research the idioms. You can either have the students pick an idiom of their choice or you can provide them with the idiom. But they need to, once they've chosen the idiom or been provided with one, they need to research the definition. Once they have researched the definition, the students are going to write a dialogue in order to put that idiom into context. As we said before, we want the vocabulary to be contextualized. You still with me, Maggie? I can't tell if you guys are hearing me or not.
We're here.
Okay, good to hear. Finally, in the next step, I suggest that before the students present, as a teacher, you check the dialogues with them. Normally I have them do it in pairs so that they can be having a dialogue rather than a monologue. Check to make sure that idiom is actually correct in its use and that it is contextualized in the right way so that when they present, their classmates will understand. So once you have checked, then the students present to their classmates, and then after a few presentations, depending on how many students you have, I usually give a small quiz or include the idioms in some part of the assessment, maybe for the midterm or for the final assessment of that term. So this is the basic timeline of what you go through for this particular strategy, and I will show you what an actual idiom presentation looks like. So basically the students, this would be an example of a dialogue that they would create. As you can see down below, we have this idiom here, to blow one's top, or as it's used here, to blow my top. So the students take turns. I'll give an example of how it might be in classroom just for this first one. So it says, "What's the matter? You look worried." "Oh, I'm having problems with my roommate." "What kind of problems?" "Well, she borrowed my computer and broke it." "Wow, were you upset?" "I was more than upset. I blew my top and told her that she could never use anything of mine again." So just hearing this idiom in this context, I would like to see how many of you might be able to guess the meaning of this idiom, to blow one's top. Maggie, can we try the first poll?
All right, it's up. We'll give a couple more seconds for people to vote. So we have, what does blow one's top mean? To get angry, to become excited, or to puncture a tire? All right. About 2/3 of you have replied, so we'll leave it open for about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and close.
Okay.
Patrick, can you see the results?
I cannot. I don't know where to
All
find
right, we
those.
got 91% of people say to get angry, 4% say to become excited, and 5% say it means to puncture a tire.
Okay, so good job to those people who said to become angry. So the idea, and I hope that this dialogue helped you to put that idiom into context. When the students are presenting, just as I am doing here, we try to contextualize it so that they understand. Then we show them the definition as such so that they can see if they were right or wrong. So during the presentations, I recommend that you show have the students present the dialogue rather than just giving the definition to help the students see that in the context. Okay, I have a few more to show you guys. So the next idiom is to take it easy. Even before we read the dialogue, let's do the poll now because I have a feeling most of you guys are familiar with this idiom. So could we try poll number 2, please?
Sure. What does take it easy mean? To take the easiest path, to relax, or to cheat on a test? All right, about half of the people have voted. 60%, 65. Leave it open for a few more seconds for people to choose. What does take it easy mean? Take the easiest path, relax, cheat on a test. We'll do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we'll close it out. And share. We have 11% say it means to take the easiest path, 86% say it means to relax, and 3% think it means to cheat on a test.
Okay, so the people who thought it meant to relax, good job. You guys are probably, this is quite a common idiom, so it's something you might be familiar with, but I just wanted to exemplify how that maybe, if you look at the bottom of the screen, it says, just calm down and take it easy. Just that small phrase right there can help to contextualize so that the students have a better idea of what that idiom would mean. So again, I would show them definition, to relax and not to use up too much energy, right? Okay. Next we have a little more difficult idiom, a less common one, and I'm going to try to contextualize it, and again we will see if you guys are familiar with this idiom. So it says, hey, how was your English class today? Oh, it was horrible. Why? What happened? My teacher asked me to come in front of the class and give a presentation, and I was totally unprepared. She really put me on the spot. Yeah, that is horrible. It's much better to give a presentation when you're ready for it. I agree. I hope that never happens again. So let's try the poll number 3 and see what you guys think about to put somebody on the spot.
All right, what does it mean to put somebody on the spot? To place somebody in the back seat of a car, to give someone an umbrella, or to make someone feel uncomfortable? All right, about 2/3 of the people have voted. We'll leave it open a little longer. All right, last couple seconds. And we'll close it. All right. Well, Patrick, the results of this one were much stronger. So 0% of the people think it means to place someone in the back seat of a car.
Okay.
4% of the people say it means to give someone an umbrella, and 96% of the people think it means to make someone feel uncomfortable.
All right. So you guys either did a very good job reading the context of this idiom, or maybe you were familiar with it, or a little bit of both. So as you can see, giving the students the context. That's the point of this exercise, of this strategy for vocabulary augmentation, is to help them understand by kind of painting the picture. So you guys were right. To put someone on the spot is to cause some difficulty or make them embarrassed, or to put them in kind of a difficult situation. So a few more examples of idioms you guys might be familiar with that you could use with your students are when pigs fly, something that will never happen, facing the music, facing the consequences, and to pay through the nose, or to pay through the nose, paying a lot of money. So I'd like to show these last three ones to show you that without the context, it's a little more difficult to understand. That's why we want to use the dialogues in order to help the students contextualize those idioms. They're quite strange things and very culturally related, so often that contextualizing really helps. The next strategy that I would like to show you guys for helping the students improve or augment their vocabulary is a similar strategy to the idioms, but just with phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are often quite challenging for English language learners because the words, when they are combined, the different combinations that they are put in mean quite different meanings than when the words are separate. So similar to the idiom strategy, the students, you would use a presentation like the one I will show you in just a moment. First, you might want to talk to the students about what phrasal verbs are. They're idiomatic phrases, with a verb and usually with an adverb or preposition or both. So here's three quick examples. Break down is a phrasal verb, a verb, and an adverb. A phrasal verb that has a verb and a preposition, for example, would be see to, and then a phrasal verb for with both an adverb and a preposition would be look down on. So as you can see here, or I'm hoping that you notice that it's hard to tell what these phrasal verbs actually mean just by looking at the word, because they don't have the context. So again, we're going to try to use the dialogue approach in order to create context for the students. So very similar to the idiom strategy is introduce the project, have the students research the phrasal verbs, write the dialogue. Again, I recommend checking the dialogue to make sure that the phrasal verb is used in the proper way. The students will present, and then the students will be assessed. If you have intermediate or maybe even more advanced students, you can have them try to use numerous phrasal verbs in the same dialogue. The dialogues that I'm about to show you guys just consist of one phrasal verb, but sometimes I've had the students use up to 5 different phrasal verbs in their dialogue so that they have a bit more of a challenge when they're learning new vocabulary. So the first phrasal verb that I would like to show today is the one cut back. So again, we have this dialogue here to contextualize. So it says, "Yo, Susie, how's it going?" "Good, John. How are you today?" "I'm great." "Hey, listen, you want to grab some pizza?" "I'd love to, John, but I just started a new diet. I'm trying to cut back on fatty foods. I quit eating pizza, hamburgers, and, oops, there's a typo there, French fries." And John says, "Really? Okay, well, let's go get some salads instead." And Susie says, "Great." So I think this is the 4th poll. Can we try that one?
Yep, we'll launch it.
Okay.
So what does cutback mean? To increase, to reduce, or to pay? Wow, people have responded very quickly.
Okay.
We're at about 70%, so we'll leave it open a little bit longer for people to respond, and then we'll close it out. All right, couple more seconds, and done. All right.
Okay.
So what does cutback mean? Can you see it? It's
Nope.
3%. 3% say it means to increase.
Uh-huh.
96% say to reduce, and 1% say to pay.
Okay, you guys are doing great today. So, yeah, as you can hopefully see here from the context, that this person is trying to reduce the amount of fatty foods that they are consuming. So again, here I show the definition, and I also try to use the pictures to help to demonstrate the meaning and also to give some more context. As you can see down here below, it says, "My doctor wants me to cut back on sweets and fatty foods." Okay, the next one is show off. Before we contextualize this, let's try this. I believe this one is poll number 5.
Yeah, we got it. All right, we'll launch it. What does show off mean? To act special for other people, to act silly for other people, or to act kindly for other people? Oh, this one's a little harder.
Mm-hmm.
We got a more mixed response on this one.
Okay. Can we do the poll again after we contextualize it and see if we get a change in the vote?
No.
Okay. Oh well.
Well, it's a nice thought. All right, we're at 60%,
Okay.
and we'll give it a couple more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Close it out. All right. So we have, what does show off mean? 55% of the people say act special for others. 36% think act silly for others. And 9% say act kindly for other people.
Okay. So, let's see if you guys would change your answer maybe by showing your, doing the hand raising. So we can first read the dialogue and see if that helps to contextualize a little bit. So it says, "Hey Brad, do you see that guy's new car? Yeah, I really hate him sometimes. Why? What did he do? Well, after winning the lottery, all he does is show off. Yeah, he does buy lots of new clothes, and now with that new car, yeah, he's always flashing his new watch too." So let's get a show of hands to see if anyone would change their answer after hearing the dialogue.
A lot of people will change their answer.
Okay, so that's good. So I'm hoping that you can see by that just having by having the contextualized, by having the dialogue, it can help your students to understand better the use and the meaning of this particular phrasal verb. So again, I would show the definition, and maybe the picture here will even help to visualize how what showing off actually means, right? So you can see down below it says, "He always shows off his muscles." Okay, I have a few more phrasal verbs. I'm going to try one more and we'll go through the other ones quickly. So it says, "Jose, Jose." "Yes, darling, where are you?" "I'm in the shower, but the water ran out. I have soap all over my face and I can't wash it off. Can you pass me a towel, please?" "Sure, honey, no problem. Just a minute." So let's get, I think this is poll number 6. Let's see what we can get from that.
All right, what does run out mean? To have none left, to leave in a hurry, or to exercise in the park? People are much more confident about this one, Patrick, than the last one.
Good to hear.
All right, we're at about 70% voted, so we'll leave it open a couple more seconds and close it out.
We need to
Last
leave.
chance. Huh?
We need to leave about 10 minutes for questions, right?
Correct.
So I got 5 minutes left?
Yes.
Holy moly, okay.
Holy moly. Okay, we'll share the results. So 75% of people say it means to have none left, 25% say leave in a hurry, and 0% thought exercise in the park.
Okay, so good job. Run out actually can mean leave in a hurry, but as you can see, in this context, run out means to have none left, right? So they ran out of water. Or this poor guy ran out of gas, and so he had to stop on the side of the road. So you can see there are lots of examples of phrasal verbs, and by writing the dialogues and practicing the phrasal verbs themselves, the students are not only practicing their English at the same time because they have to create the context, but they are going to increase their vocabulary. So we have this one, calm down, which means to relax after being angry or upset, right? Okay, that was the last one. Just because of time, I wanted to get on to the third strategy, what I like to call the word wall. So these are student-centered vocabulary lists. So for vocabulary lists, as we all know, vocabulary is important when learning any language, our first language and additional languages, whatever they may be, in this case English. But how do we decide as teachers what students need to learn? It may be easy, for example, if you're given English for specific purposes, if you're given English for engineering or English for business or English for law, you might already have some pre-established vocabulary lists. But I also think that let's let the students decide. Often the students are working with different materials in English. For example, they're reading articles or they're reading a textbook or they're watching videos on YouTube related to their subject or even on TED or using the internet in different ways. When they are using those different materials, whether they're texts or their videos or even audios, the students often come across vocabulary that they do not understand. So, in my opinion, and what I've done in the past with my students is help them try to learn the vocabulary that they are already having difficulty with. So rather than presenting the list as the teacher to the students, I have the students actually create the lists, or what I like to call the word wall. So basically, if you are in a reading or writing classes where I've normally done this, and we're reading specific articles as a class, every Monday or once a week, you can decide when you would like to do that, I would have the students collect the words from the text. I would put the students in groups of 3 to 4, depending on the size of the class, and tell each group that they needed to pick one word. So they were able to have some ownership of what they were learning, rather than me as the teacher telling them, okay, you need to learn this set of 10 words. Potentially the students already knew some of the words. I allowed them to choose the words that they were having the most difficulty with. After we collected the words, I would give the students pieces of paper, about a third of an actual piece of paper, and have them write the word there, and then we would stick them on the wall. And I will show you an example of that in just a moment. But I wanted to first talk about the steps that you would go through for this strategy. So we create the word wall, and over the term the wall grows and grows and grows, and you might get up to 80 or maybe even 100 different words. Each week, the students, you can organize the word walls in weeks, or you can organize them in parts of speech, nouns, verbs, adjectives. You can organize them in different ways. I tried to organize them in weeks so the students knew which words they should study for that week. I actually had a vocabulary test every Friday using the words that the students themselves collected and put on the word wall. So I would repeat this cycle, these steps, every week. Collect the words on Monday, put them on the word wall. The students knew which words they needed to study, and then I selected, didn't usually test them all over all of the words from the week, but I would select about 5 of the words and test them each week, and then just repeat that process. So this is a digital form of what you might see on a wall. I tried to use different colors for each week so the students could see quickly which words they were studying that week. And you can see there's a variety of different kind of words, nouns, verbs, adjectives. So these are just an example. Sometimes, unfortunately, you don't always have your own classroom, or you meet the students, you're meeting them in different places, so it's hard to have an actual physical word wall. In that case, you can often do a digital word wall where you can use Google Docs or some sort of other place that you can have text in order to have a digital word wall. As you can see here, we have the words on the left side. The POS means parts of speech, and then I would have a definition, and again trying to contextualize with an example what the word would mean. Normally in the past, I've done both the physical word wall and the actual and the digital word wall. I would make the students responsible. I would assign each student, each week I would assign one student, and they would be responsible for updating the digital wall so that the other students could go there and study for the test. Here's an example of the tests that I was using. As you can see, I'm really big on contextualizing the vocabulary. So I would use the vocabulary words. As you can see in part A, they're the underlined words. And the students would have to answer the questions that I proposed them in a way that shows that they understood the meaning. So they would have to, for example, if the doctor told you that you needed to eat more roughage, what would you do? Roughage is food that has lots of fiber. So you could say, I would eat lots of fruits and vegetables. So this is a way of checking the meaning rather than just saying, okay, write the definition. Actually checking the meaning in context. Then in parts B, the students would have to use the meaning, or use the words in context. So they would have to provide the definition, but also use complete a sentence so that they could show they knew how to use the word to actually use it rather than just to be able to define it. Here's another example of another test. I wanted to provide you guys with a few examples, and you can see the same thing. They need to understand the word in context, but then also in the second half be able to use the word in context. Okay, so those were the 3 strategies that I have used for vocabulary augmentation, and I wanted to provide you guys with some websites where you could find resources for these 3 strategies. Under the idioms, we actually, with our program as English Language Fellows, have a website called American English, and there you can find not only lists of idioms, but other activities and other readings that you can do. So there's that link. In order just to find lists with their definitions, if you wanted to try this strategy so you could send your students somewhere to find actual idioms, you can use the idiom site. Similar to that is the phrasal verbs. These are just lists of phrasal verbs with definitions. As far as some tools to use with the word wall, this first site, I don't know how to pronounce it, but the EncrisNet is an actual place where the students can make digital flashcards. They can input the words that they're studying and then put the definition and maybe an example on the back so that they can have a way of testing their knowledge. The Quizlet is a place where I have pre-made flashcards if the students are looking for ways to just practice kind of random vocabulary, but it's nice because those flashcards are actually organized in different topics from like engineering to biology to medicine and different kind of topics like that. Finally, the last link, as you can see at the end of the link, it's called the AWL, or the Academic Word List. Sometimes if you have more beginning students, or if you don't have opportunities for the students to do much reading or outside work so that they can start collecting words for the word wall, these are some lists that you can start using because they are organized in sets of 1,000 words. So the words are organized in the 1,000 most common academic words, the 2,000 most common academic words. So that's a good place because at least you're going to be working with words that the students are highly likely to encounter in their English learning experience. So those are a few resources that I wanted to show you guys that can help facilitate these three strategies. So that's all I had for you guys today. I hope there wasn't too many technical problems, and if you had any questions now, we can definitely start facilitating those.
All right, well, one question has, if you have questions, by the way, please type them in to the chat box. Now is the opportunity where we can ask Patrick any questions that came throughout the presentation. One came earlier, and it is on activity ideas and suggestions that you might have for teaching idioms.
So the only thing I've done with the idioms is actually this project. I haven't done, I've done some things where I'll put a whole bunch of idioms on the board and then put a definition, and the students have to mix and match, or you can do idioms, pieces of paper with the definition and cut them up, and the students have to try to find their partner. But basically, I try to let the students choose which ones they want and then have them teach their classmates so that they are actually involved in the learning process and they get to be in the selection process rather than me deciding, okay, these are my favorite idioms, let's learn all of these. I try to get the students involved and do that, the idiom presentation project that I just showed you.
All right. Raquel has a question on level appropriacy. She wants to know if activities like you suggested would be good for beginners or if they're only suitable for intermediate or advanced students.
I think they could be suitable for all levels. You would have to tailor it. I've mostly used these projects for intermediate and advanced learners, but I think especially if you do a little more structuring and scaffolding with the beginning students, you could start having them maybe just give them one idiom, and you could even the first time you do the project actually give them an idiom that they need to use. Whereas with the intermediate students, maybe you're having them choose their own, or maybe you're having them do 3 or 4 idioms in the same dialogue. But I think with beginning students, you could start working with it and maybe having them do very simple dialogues as a way to start practicing. They'll definitely need more coaching, and maybe you can designate class time actually to writing the dialogues, but I don't think there's any reason that beginning students couldn't start working with idioms. They're extremely common, very important in language, and there's things that are so common people don't even realize they're using them, and I think that can cause confusion for students, and so I think it's a good idea to start as early as possible.
All right, and Lisette has a question about how to make learning words funny or entertaining.
Funny or entertaining? I think especially with the idioms and the phrasal verbs, which can be kind of goofy, as you saw. Let me see if I can go, I don't know if I can go back. You saw this thing about paying through the nose. This is kind of a funny picture. So things like this, I think things with idioms and things like a leopard can't change his spots. Lots of idioms that are in English are also in other languages. So one thing that I think can be fun and entertaining is having students try to compare and contrast different ways. Maybe you could give them a list of idioms or have them even create their own idioms in their native language. I don't know if maybe Spanish, for example, and then as an assignment or as something maybe fun, try to figure out how to say that in English. Because the students, once you start talking about idioms, will hopefully become aware that they use them all the time without even thinking about it. And so maybe they would start to say, oh, wow, okay. So how do we start trying to start using those same things but in English or the language that they have to be studying? So maybe doing a translation project could be a fun way to approach that.
Okay. We have another question from, hold on, let me find it, from Carmen, who wants to know if you've ever done similar activities for helping students with irregular verbs.
Oh, no, I haven't. But I think that could be a good idea. As far as putting them in past, there is a irregular verb wrap that's on YouTube that a friend of mine has put up there. I can't remember the link, but I will show you my email in just a moment, and if you email me, I will send you the link. That is a fun way to work with irregular verbs. He does a wrap in order to learn the past simple and the past participle of all those irregular verbs.
Okay. And Valeria has a question about what method of learning vocabulary you would recommend in preparing for a TOEFL test.
Oh, I think the word wall strategy would be good, especially if you are if you have TOEFL prep test prep books where you are doing reading and doing vocabulary on there, so you could actually extract the vocabulary that you are not understanding while you're preparing from the test, and then that way you can create a list, a very personalized list to prepare for those tests.
All right, and a question from Leticia is, how long do you devote to the teaching and practice of the idioms and phrasal verbs? So how much class time do you devote to these activities?
So when I have done it in the past, I devoted probably about 15 or 20 minutes to introduce the project in the very beginning of the term, and then the students were responsible for doing all of the dialogue, writing, and the presentation making outside of the class. And then I would devote about 10 minutes every Friday so that the students, so 2 students every week would present, so that by the midterm everybody had already presented, so that we would have idioms to test on the midterm. But not a lot of class time was devoted. This was things that the students should be doing outside of class. And then if they came early or maybe stayed a little bit after class, I would quickly check their dialogues. But I think maybe if it's the first time you could potentially devote some time to writing the dialogue, so you could see how the students are progressing with the writing of the dialogues, especially if it's for more beginning students. But in the past, I have done it primarily as outside of class assignments, except for the actual presentations.
Okay. And a couple of knowledge questions here for you. Don't know if you know them, but from Eduardo and Edison, one being how many meanings can one word have? And from Edison, how many words can a person learn in about a week?
Whoa.
Well, we'll do one by one. First off, you know how many meanings a word can have?
The meanings for a word, I think, it depends. There are words that, well, the rule of thumb is definitely that each word usually doesn't have only one meaning. Depends on the context. We know, for example, just simple words like bat, like we have the bat from Batman, but also the bat from baseball. I don't know if there's a limit, But I think once you start talking about slang and different contexts of using words, there might not be a limit. But I would say, you might be able to get up to 10 or 20 different meanings depending on, people start using them as secret words and things like that. So I'm not sure. I unfortunately don't have a good answer for that question.
All right, and then we'll do Edison's question next, which was how many words you would suggest giving to students in, let's say, a week?
I would say it depends on the level of the students. They say that vocabulary learning is quite rapid, kind of more in the upper beginner stages, in the intermediate stages, and you start to plateau. I would say probably a good rule of thumb for me as a learner and as a teacher, which I would apply to my students, is maybe 3 to 5 words a day. That even seems kind of a lot. You can start throwing so many words at them, but how much are they going to retain? And are they really going to remember them after they're tested? Are the students just learning those huge lists for the test, or they're actually using them? So I would say try to go quality over quantity for that sake, so that the students are actually learning and then not only remembering the words, but learning how to use them so that they're putting them in their production of speech, or if you're working with writing, that they're actually using them rather than just having this kind of rote memory of vocabulary, memorized vocabulary words. In my opinion, the reason to learn vocabulary is to use it and to be able to understand it when other people use it, not just to have a memorized list. So I would fare on kind of the lesser side. I think if you're trying to teach 10 words a day, that's quite a bit to have the students really learn them. But yeah, I would say maybe 3 or 5 words a day is a good start. And it depends. Lots of words are related. You can start doing families and those sort of things. The same word in a noun form than an adjective form. So that's 2 birds with 1 stone. There's an idiom for you.
There you go. All right. Well, that seems to be about all the questions and about all the time. Did you have any final thoughts, Patrick?
Well, here's my email. I think you guys have access to some of the materials. We have an updated version of the PowerPoint. I added some things the other day before I had sent it. So if you guys would like any materials, or I had mentioned the rap video about the irregular verbs, I can send that out to you guys. If you have any questions about anything here, please feel free to contact me. Here's my email on the screen, and I appreciate your guys' attention, and this was a good experience for me. This is my first webinar, so I hope it went well.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Sounds from the comments of people, it sounds like it was a very positive experience.
Okay.
So we hope you enjoyed the webinar. If you have any more questions, you can either email them to Patrick. If you'd like any of the additional material, you can email them to me. My contact is on the confirmation email that you received from registration. So we will be back next month with another RELO Andes webinar. It will be presented by Teresa, who is another fellow out in Colombia. The topic of her presentation will be on planning backwards to move students forwards. So we hope that you can join us. It will be on Tuesday, March 29th at 3 p.m. Peru time. If you are not on our mailing, but you would like to stay in touch with us on any of the RELO Andes events, especially the webinars, here's our contact. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter. The email for RELO Andes is there on the bottom of the screen. We also record all of the webinars, so if you came late or had to leave early, but you would like to see the whole presentation, you can find it on the RELO Andes channel on YouTube. So once again, thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the presentation, and we hope to see you next month. So thank you, everyone. Bye.